Welcome to the Marshall News and Views Show. I'm Elaine Conyers, and my guest today is the new director of our Marshall Community Services, who is Scott VanDerMillen. Did I get that right?
That is correct,
Okay.
Elaine. Yep.
Well, so good to have you here, and you've been here just for a short, close to a month.
About a month now,
About
yes.
a month, yes. And he followed Harry Wyloggy, who was the director for many years and who retired recently. And then you decided to come in here, and we certainly welcome you to our community, and we
Thank
welcome you to this show. You'll be on pretty often because there's a lot of things that go on in that Marshall Community Service Department. So we're glad to have you, and are you liking Marshall okay?
A lot.
A lot.
Liking it a lot, yes. It's nice to be back. As you well know, I was a student here.
I forgot about that one.
That's all right. I'm a graduate of Southwest State,
Yes.
a proud graduate. So it's nice to come back to where I
Yes.
got my start.
Right.
And but no, the month on the job and in the community has been outstanding, been tremendous. So
Good. And I know it's a very busy job, but it is so interesting. I really enjoy being a part of that too, and it's very interesting organization. And now, I imagine you have some ideas for the future that you want to build into that department, right?
Absolutely, and one of the things, Elaine, that I'll do in my first year is develop and build on those ideas based on the current programming that's going on.
Yes.
Getting familiar with all of the entities that we work with, not only the Marshall Public School System, which is who we work with exclusively,
Yes. Yeah.
but there's a lot of other partnerships that we have within the community, within the region, that we want to maintain,
Sure.
enhance, and build upon.
Yes.
And all of those ideas won't come within the first month, but we'll build a foundation of information and those types of things, and getting to know folks and maintaining the outstanding relationships that Harry and the staff at Community Services, because there's a lot of unsung heroes that have built that organization, and we'll talk about that as we go along here.
Sure.
But yeah, we'll bring in some new ideas, but we'll also enhance the current programming that we have in place.
Yeah. Well, I met with some of the state community service people that came down here a few months ago, and they really bragged about the relationship that community service has with the local school. And they said, well, we're trying to get other communities in the state to follow your leadership, and so and that is amazing too, that to work together like that, and that kind of collaboration is really good for the community and especially for the students.
Marshall is unique, Elaine, in the fact that we're one of only 3 communities in the state of Minnesota that has a community services director that is functions out of the city rather than the school district.
Okay.
Typically, the community education directors are housed and employed by the school district.
Oh.
So Marshall has always functioned that way.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's been successful or not, Marshall has stayed the course and really done some good things with the partnership with the city and the resources that are available. So.
Well, good. So, do you want to share some of your vision then for the future?
Sure. Well, let me first talk about our community services staff.
Oh, sure.
And a lot of the folks probably know from watching Studio One and the local channels in the community, Doug Goodman, who is our assistant director.
Yes.
And I know that he does a show.
Yes.
I'm not familiar if that is weekly or monthly. I think it is monthly.
Okay.
And but Doug is probably a familiar face to a lot of folks.
Oh, yes.
Simply from the standpoint that he's been with the city 38 years.
Oh,
and,
it is that long. Wow.
Been tremendously committed and does an outstanding job. And so folks are probably more familiar with Doug's face just simply from being involved for 38 years even
Right.
more so from the show that he
Yes.
works on.
Yep.
And then we have Cam Bailey, who's our recreation coordinator, who's been with us about 12 years and
Okay.
does an outstanding job with our youth programming and our sports activities programs.
Yeah.
And Mary Tate, who's been with
Yes.
us 20 years as
Okay.
our administrative assistant, and basically, Mary has the pulse of the heartbeat of what goes on in community services, and
Yes.
she's an outstanding resource and an outstanding supporter of all of our programs. And she's been actively involved in a lot of the school district programming as well.
Okay.
And then Danielle Wilt, who is our receptionist out front, who is the first face that folks see in the community when they come to register for a class,
Sure.
pick up a prize from a drawing from our grand arena grand opening last week.
Oh, yeah.
And but Danielle's been with us 14 years. So
Okay.
those four folks that I talked about just to begin with have over 80 years of experience with the city. And
Yes.
that's outstanding.
Yes.
And that's why our programs, along with Harry's longtime commitment to the city, that's why community services is an outstanding resource for a community this size and has really enhanced the success of Marshall long term.
Yes.
In terms of vision, Elaine, here are just two things that I see being first and foremost. We want to, as I said earlier, we want to sustain and enhance the current programming that's in place. I talked about some branches of our organization, adult basic education, which Pat Thomas is involved with.
Yes.
Barb Lipinski over at the Adult Community Center does an outstanding job. Both those individuals have about 19, 20 years of experience in the community and just do an outstanding job. Those are just two entities that make up community services aside from our athletic programming and our shared facilities programming with the Marshall Community Schools. So I want to make sure that we sustain the successful programming that we provide, keep everything cost effective and manageable for every patron in the city of Marshall and the surrounding area to have an opportunity to take advantage of.
Yes.
The next thing that'll be on our horizon and we'll lean on our advisory board, which is made up of about 14 individuals, of folks in the community.
Yes.
And we've met once already, and you're a part of that group.
Yes.
But one of the things we want to do is challenge that group to see what our next undertaking is in terms of the community.
Yeah.
The community just finished off a huge project in the Red Baron Arena.
Right.
And that was a long process, a
Yes.
cumbersome process, but a very rewarding process
Yes.
that will bring a lot of recognition and opportunity to our city. Bring a lot of folks into the community, not only for sporting events, but arts, home shows, those types
Right.
of activities. And the city will work collaboratively with the CVB to be able to provide those opportunities. So we want to build on experiences and opportunities like that.
Right.
But we want to solicit feedback from our community. So we'll be putting together, probably in the next 6 to 8 months, a needs assessment
Oh, sure.
that
Good.
we'll go out to the community and we'll solicit feedback from folks based on a number of areas.
Yes.
What kind of additional programming they'd like to see.
Yes.
What does the city of Marshall do well? What do we do not so well that we can improve on? And what additional opportunities we can provide for the diverse population that's in Marshall, not only from an early childhood age, but our senior folks in the community
Yes,
as well.
yes.
So we try to make sure that we provide opportunities for that broad range.
Yeah, and I'm glad to hear that because it's good that looking forward to working with the different cultures that live in our community, and that's something we really need to work on, and because it's a growing population of immigrants here, and we want to make them feel part of the community, of course, provide some things for them. Yeah, very good.
One of the additional areas that I didn't touch on that is also under our umbrella is Studio One. and Alex Peterson and his
Yes,
staff,
yeah.
Who's producing this show today
Yes.
for you. And Alex has done a great job in terms
has.
of upgrading programming and bringing in new equipment
Yes.
and just training techniques that he's going to share with students both at Southwest State and in the Marshall Public Schools. So
Yes.
just want to put in a little plug for Alex and his program and the great
Yes.
job that he does. And he's got us on a new set today with some new graphics, it looks like. And
Yes.
so some of the changes we'll start seeing in terms of the opportunities that Alex is going to present to the community as well.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah, I keep telling him that the people are bragging about him all the time, which is true.
Yeah.
People really appreciate his input and how he has built things up here.
and they have a terrific reason to brag because he does, again, do an outstanding
Yes.
job. You could just go down the list of the things that he produces, and we talk about the Red Baron Arena
Yes.
grand opening and,
Yes.
and the great job that he did there. And he's put together a disc of that programming and the 9/11 event on Sunday. And
that's- yeah.
you go on down the line.
Yep.
And, but he just does some outstanding work, and
Yes.
we're very fortunate to have him in
Yeah,
the community.
That's
so.
right. And he used to be here. He worked for, well, it wasn't called Studio One back then, but it was a public access television show. And then he went on to bigger, better things, and then he decided this was even bigger and better. He wanted to come back, so we're glad he did.
Yeah, came back to the biggest thing.
That's
so.
the biggest thing, right?
Right.
And that's one thing we're noticing about Marshall and the growth that we are going through. It used to be that, I'm not referring to Alex now, but students would, once they had graduated from high school, they left. They wanted
Sure.
a different experience. Well, then some did stay and go to our university, and then they sure left after that.
Right.
And now we're finding that those students, maybe they're gone for 10 years, but they come back.
Right.
Because they really they remember what a great city this is and all that it offers. And one of the big things too is, excuse me, it's safe, a safe community.
Right.
And they are, excuse me, looking at that for their children.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I don't think that can be underestimated, especially with young families and beginning their professional careers. And
That's
I know
right.
that I've talked to a number of people in the community in my short time back, and they always mention that
Yeah.
they feel safe in Marshall, and it feels like home, and they enjoy raising their families here.
Right,
And
right.
so they enjoy taking advantage of the programs that not only the city of Marshall offers, but the public school system as
Yes,
well. So,
exactly. Yeah. So there's just a lot of good things happening, and we're growing economically too, and that's really good because it provides opportunities, work opportunities for a lot of people,
Yes.
and that's good.
Yes.
So we're proud of Marshall.
Marshall's been very progressive in
Yes.
those ways that you're speaking of, and they'll continue to do
Yeah.
so.
We have always been a regional center, which means that even those that started our community were very progressive in making sure that this community grew, and the following people did the same thing, so that we have remained a very vibrant part of Southwest Minnesota. Sometimes people say, well, I've done this, now I don't have to do anything more. Well, it doesn't work that way. You've got to keep working on it in order to keep that reputation and keep that status.
Well, and I think what's enhanced that as well, and that's certainly been one of my early impressions, is that when those folks do come back to Marshall to work, they stay.
Yes.
The Harry Wyloggies that make that 38-year commitment.
Right.
The Doug Goodmans, who's been with us 38 years, and I'm just touching on community services. You can go on down the line in our city government with Tom Muehlbrecht, who recently retired after 37 years.
Right.
And those people stay.
Yep.
They establish a home and their family here, and they make that long-term commitment, and that's what's made Marshall strong.
Yes.
And folks like yourself that are committed to so many things, such as city council and this program and all the other things that you're involved in, that's a credit to the folks in this community, because there's a lot of folks out there that I'm sure you have on this show every week.
Oh, yeah.
that are like that.
Yes, that's right. Because we pretty much this show pretty much tends to talk about and interview people, government people, and the public comments about that they, they really don't know what's always happening in the city until they look at the show, and because I'm interviewing people that are very much a part of the growth of Marshall,
Right.
and people want to see that. Not everybody does, but certainly they like to see what's happening here.
One of the things that we were just talking about in the office recently was the collaborative effort and how good Marshall is at working together on things.
Yes.
One entity may have a strength in one area, and another entity may need some help in that area, and they work together. And Marshall does a tremendous job of that. And there's so many examples of folks working together, whether it be not just in the city and school, but the college here, for an example, sharing facilities, sharing resources, sharing personnel, sharing manpower.
Yes.
We're probably 3 weeks removed from Sounds of Summer, and what a collaborative effort in terms of moving that event from an outdoor event that could have been canceled potentially to indoors just in a matter of hours.
Right.
Headed up by Preston Stensrud, our parks director, and his staff. I mean, what an outstanding transition in a short amount of time.
That's right.
To ensure that event went on,
Yes.
Thursday night, Friday, and Saturday. I don't know a lot of communities that could pull that off in a short amount of time.
And we wouldn't have been able to do it 2 years ago, from the standpoint we didn't have a building big enough to hold that amount of people.
Right.
And so it really it just put more emphasis on that a sports arena that, well, it's not only for sports and shows and stuff. This is the place to go when the weather is working against us. It was just perfect in that sense. Yeah. And so many people talked about that. Well, I'm so glad we got that big arena. We could go there.
Sure. Well, I know you had Nick Johnson, our city administrator, on possibly earlier.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much Nick talked about that facility and the benefits that it'll bring to this community. But one of the things that we envision, at least long term, is the events that we'll be able to bring to that facility outside of hockey.
Yes.
And hockey will be the main focus and function, and that's exciting for not only MAHA, the youth organization in the community, but Marshall Public Schools, but the surrounding communities that'll come to town.
Yes.
But it's those 6 month. It's that 6 month window where we don't have that second sheet of ice down, where you'll bring in home shows and expos and those types of things that will really be an outstanding resource for our community. And hopefully we don't have to use it as a inclement weather shelter for events. But as you said, it's nice to have and nice to know that you can fall back on it. So.
Yes, and I suspect that the growth of tournaments taking place in Marshall, hockey tournaments taking place in Marshall, that's really going to continue to grow, and we will maybe have to in the future look at building additional hockey rinks. That
certainly could be a possibility down the road.
Maybe not in my lifetime, but certainly that could happen.
Right.
And that's such a big plus. Such a big plus.
Yeah.
And especially when we talk about hockey, because when several years ago we'd go up to the Twin Cities for grandsons who played hockey, and every time we were there, and it was pretty often, there was always a team from Marshall. It was either girls hockey or boys hockey. And my goodness, they had to travel all that way, turn around, and go home that night. Some probably stayed, I don't know, but that's a big trip and a very long day for them. And so other communities around Marshall too have had to do that. If they got to a state tournament, they had to go up to the Twin Cities.
Right.
So we're so fortunate that we have that now for the people in our area, and that extends into South Dakota, Iowa, and they come here now and have their tournaments.
One of the great things about hockey, similar to a sport like tennis, it's a lifelong skill, not just from the hockey standpoint, but the skating standpoint.
Yeah.
Doug Goodman provides an opportunity for open skate 3 nights a week in our community, and so it's fun to see not just the youth take advantage of that, but the older adults that come skate with their kids and those types of things, and they get that start not just from ice skating as a youngster, but playing hockey on both the boys and the girls side, and they maintain that relationship with that wellness piece in their life, and that's really important in a community like Marshall. And
that's right.
So that's exciting, and we see groups take advantage of that open skate time too. And I don't want to take away from what Doug would share with the public, but we'll have groups like the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts or our student success coordinators over at the high school with our minority population wants to bring in a group of kids and just get those folks exposed to that wellness opportunity.
Sure.
And it'll start picking up as the weather gets a little colder too. So it's about 55 degrees in those rinks right now, so that's a little chilly in the hallway there. But it's exciting for our community, not just from the hockey standpoint, but from the wellness piece as well.
Sure, exactly.
Yeah.
So we're very proud of that growth. That's for sure. So you're all settled in the community after a month here, and that's good. Where did you come from? I forgot.
Sure. I'm originally from Iowa.
From Iowa, okay.
Yeah, originally from there, and I was there the last 3 years as a high school administrator, director of activities.
Okay.
And thoroughly enjoyed that.
Good.
And but as I said, it was time to come back to where I got my start.
There.
So glad to be back in Marshall.
Good.
Yeah.
So. And like I say, there's other opportunities besides our sports arena too. There's a lot of activity that goes on in Marshall.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
But I was also going to talk a little bit about the collaboration with the high school too, the community service in the high school, or the schools, I should say, and not just the high school. That you work together to provide opportunities for your kids for after-school activities. And that is really important in today's world because so many of the parents work. I mean, women are working now. Back in my day, women were not supposed to work. Well, we worked, but we didn't.
Right.
It was a different kind of work. But so there's always that thing, Mo, what do we do with the kids? Where do they go? What are they going to do? And they can, through this collaboration, you do classes for those that need extra help, plus those that just need to grow in their fields of interest too. And I think that is so good, especially with that we have this to offer to our new immigrant children.
That area is kind of twofold, Elaine. We start with what we refer to as an ECFE, our Early Childhood and Family Education Program, where kids start, as young as 4. And we have a limited amount of slots available in our program due to our facilities restriction, our limited facilities, I should say. And but Doug Goodman, as we've talked about, is in charge of our after schools programs and hires those individuals for those areas, and they provide a lot of opportunities for kids after school and those types of things. So you're right, we just have an extensive broad spectrum from youth to seniors in terms of offering programs, not just sports as we talked about earlier, But we offer technology classes, we offer quilting classes, we offer after-school programs for youth, just quite a wide variety.
Yes, yes. So that's a wonderful thing, because it takes care, it makes sure that the students are safe because they're enrolled in a program, and they're not just running down the street or something.
Right.
So that's very good in there, and so the community services really provided a lot of things for our community and for students especially.
There are so many opportunities for kids after school to be involved in activities. So we're very fortunate in this community to have the resources and facilities to be able to do that.
That's right. Yeah. And it's a year-round job too.
Yes,
yes,
very
no
definitely.
Question.
There's never a downtime.
No.
But we want to keep those kids busy after school.
That's right.
And not only after school at 3 o'clock, but after school when the school year ends, throughout the summer, we try to keep kids active as well. And that's where our aquatic center comes into play and those types of things. And, certainly I can come back and talk to you about that sometime.
Oh, yes. We certainly want to hear from you often, all the new programs that are coming in, or when it shifts to,
seasons
and everything like that. So that's wonderful.
Absolutely.
So, we certainly thank you for your participation, for coming back.
Thank you.
And I have to tell the audience, I was trying to explain to him about SMSU and how it's put together and where he should park and stuff. And they said, "Hey, I graduated from there. I know every spot there."
Yeah. I've parked in a few of the spots before. So.
I was the one that had to learn when we moved out here.
Sure. No, it's great to be back.
Yeah,
great to be back.
Good. So we thank you for coming today, and we'll have you back, and thank you for all your good work.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you.